Okay, so you've joined Yes and Toastmasters. Now what? Tonight we're going to be going through what we're calling Toastmasters 101. Many of you have been in our club for a long time, but you might not have participated in every functionary role yet. So tonight we hope to introduce you to each of those roles and give you the opportunity to ask questions at the end. Little housekeeping before we get started. As I mentioned, we are recording this, so please keep yourself on mute if you're not talking, and either ask your questions in the chat or hold them for the end where we'll open it up for questions. Tonight, we're going to go through a presentation with each of the officers in our club, with the exception of Daniel Perez, who is absent. So I'm Valerie Heckman, I'm the president. Garrett Gray, who I mentioned, hopefully will be joining us. He's working on getting into the Zoom, is our vice president of membership and one of the co-founders of the club. Mark Avignon is our sergeant of arms. Noel Ganay is our vice president of education and the immediate past president and one of the co-founders of the club. And Mike Scampini is our treasurer, secretary, and one of the club co-founders as well. Our learning objectives for the evening is to really talk about the 6 functionary roles, the 6 core roles available in each Yes and Toastmasters meeting. Myself and the other officers will share some of the key things that you need to know to perform each role successfully, along with some of our own tips and tricks to get the most out of performing each of the roles. The gathering of Yes and Toastmasters starts long before each meeting through some planning and participations in each of these roles that makes our meeting a success. So we hope that you'll consider joining us in filling these roles in future meetings to come. And if you've filled a role in the past, we hope that it'll inspire you to try some new roles as well. Okay, so for those who are pretty new to this, each club meeting has roles that are filled by members. And while the officer roles are constant for a whole year, so each of the folks that I just mentioned are in that role in Yes and Toastmasters for a full year, the meeting roles themselves change each time. And each of the roles has a unique set of responsibilities and skills that can be gained by participating in them. You will learn a lot more than you think about kind of being part of a meeting as a whole when you take on each of these roles. And I will say that many of the skills that you develop by serving these roles will serve you in life outside of Toastmasters. Tonight, we're going to skip a few of the roles in the meeting, but we can cover them in a future session. We're going to discuss the roles listed in bold. And typically, each meeting will have 2 speakers and 2 evaluators. The exception is when we have a special meeting that may have more, like a contest or a speech-a-thon. I'm going to kick us off by talking about the role of Toastmaster. The Toastmaster is really the meeting's director and host. As Toastmaster, you will do a few things ahead of the meeting and have a bunch of different things that you do during the meeting to help it be successful. Before the meeting begins, you are going to set the theme, which we'll talk about more in a moment. You'll acquire the meeting agenda from our Vice President of Education, Noel, and get familiar with that agenda ahead of the meeting so you know who is serving which role in the upcoming meeting and be able to anticipate any changes that need to be responded to during it. You'll want to ask each of the speakers for their bios or what we call an intro. That's basically what says the name of their speech, their name, which project they're working on, and how long their speech should be, and maybe a few things about the speaker. I would suggest taking the time to make sure that you know how to pronounce each speaker's name. Maybe you do that when you first get to the meeting. Maybe you ask them ahead of time if you can. And then also just get familiar with their bio and their intro. Make sure that there's nothing that you're not sure of included in that bio so that you can give a really nice introduction to their speech. You'll also want to work with the General Evaluator on the night of the meeting to make sure that all the functionaries know their roles and responsibilities, and that everyone is really familiar with when they're going to come up and participate in their part of the meeting. This is a big one. We have some trouble with it in our club. You'll want to make sure that you put together your own introduction and provide it to me, the president of the club, ahead of the meeting so that I can introduce you as the Toastmaster. If you don't give me a bio, I am prone to making one up. So keep that in mind if you serve the role of Toastmaster, and I will try and do my part to remind you to give a bio as well. During the meeting itself, the floor is yours. You'll want to really take ownership of introducing the theme of the meeting, welcoming everyone in. In our club, there's the welcome from the president and the improv piece before we get to the Toastmasters. So this is you kind of bringing everybody back from the improv and the break and really taking the stage for the rest of the meeting as the host. I will say that your primary function is to make sure that things are flowing well by introducing each of the participants, making sure that you make sure that things run smoothly and have seamless transitions between each of the meeting segments, which can take some preparation to make sure that you know how things are going to go, especially if you're new to the club. I will say that this is a role that consider taking on once you've gotten a little bit more familiar with how the club operates. You might want to try one of the other roles first before taking on the role of Toastmaster, but it is a great personal development role to fill because it helps you get comfortable facilitating meetings and trainings and other things that might show up in your life. Even hosting a party at your house, you might have transitions from having appetizers to sitting down at the table. It really helps you practice those skills. One of the cool things about our club is we have a big emphasis on the theme of the meeting. And as Toastmaster, you get to pick the theme. It is one of your core responsibilities. And we feel that our themes really set the tone of our meeting, helps engage the attendees, and makes our meetings more fun. So here are a few things that you should think about when you pick a theme. The first is, does this theme spark conversation and creativity? Your theme will likely be incorporated into several parts of the meeting: the table topics questions, the inspirational moment, and maybe even the word of the day and the improv and prepared speeches. For instance, we had one meeting that was football themed, and I think one of the speakers did a football themed speech, and each of the table topics questions were around sports. So something to keep in mind as you're picking the theme. The attendees might choose and will be encouraged to choose to dress up or change their Zoom backgrounds for the theme. That's a big thing in our club. I'm sure you've noticed that if you've been around for a while. We also try to decorate the room to match the theme. And it really builds in a conversation topic for everyone, for networking. And in some ways, it can even drive people to come to the meeting if they see what the theme is on social media. So the second tip is to say, is my theme welcoming? Not everybody is going to be excited about every single theme. Looking at you, Star Trek fans on Star Wars night. But we do want to refrain from having any themes that could make members or guests feel uncomfortable or unwelcome. So use your discretion and feel free to chat with any of us officers if you have any questions about the theme that you want to pick. And then finally, is this theme something that you are personally excited about? I really recommend picking something that you enjoy discussing. There's a lot of different ways to incorporate a theme into the meeting. So be creative and be prepared to say a few things about your theme at the start and end of the meeting and when you are transitioning between speakers. If you lead by example and embrace your theme, other people will follow. So here are a couple of themes that we have had in the past. Our Star Wars night's very popular. We've had shark appreciation, attitude of gratitude, Chicago sports, puppet night. There's been a bunch of different things. So the sky is really the limit in what you choose to do as a Toastmaster in our club. And then I will lead with, end us off with this. When you're leading the Toastmasters meeting, preside with sincerity, energy, and decisiveness. Pay attention to each speaker, lead the group in applause, welcome each speaker to the podium, and really take the audience on a journey and make them feel that all is going well, and we will all really enjoy the meeting as a result. I know that's a lot of pressure, but it's a lot of fun to serve as the role of the Toastmaster in our club, and I hope that you'll consider doing so. All righty. And I did not get a chance to see if Garrett was able to join because I
am here, Valerie.
Hey, there he is. All righty.
I will need you to advance the slides for me. So I will just say next slide when ready.
Okay, sounds good. I can do that.
Okay, well, continuing the Toastmasters 101, I'm Garrett Gray. I'll be talking about the General Evaluator role. And I like to consider this role Toastmaster light for a few reasons. Now, some of you may have wanted to be Toastmaster, but maybe you're afraid of picking the theme, introducing speakers, and all those responsibilities. This is a good role to get your toes wet and with doing some of the stuff that a Toastmaster does. And as Valerie said about bringing the energy as a Toastmaster, you're leading that second half of the meeting. So you basically are getting that baton from the Toastmaster, and you want to carry that positivity, good energy into the second half of the meeting. So today I'm going to talk about 3 parts that you would have as the General Evaluator. The first part is at the first half of the meeting where you're just going to introduce your role. The second half of the meeting will be 2 parts. The first part, you will be facilitating, calling up the evaluation team to give their roles. And then last, you're going to give your feedback, which is the meat of the General Evaluator role. So basically, as a General Evaluator, you're going to facilitate the evaluation team and evaluate the meeting as a whole. Next slide. So I'm going to give you some tools for success. The first thing you want to do is get prepared. You're going to do that by, before you attend the meeting, get the script from the Yes and Toastmasters website. I'll show you how to do that in a few moments. Then at the meeting itself, you will have the meeting agenda. Noelle Ganay, our VPE, usually provides the agenda at every seat. So there's no excuse not to have one. And if Noelle's not there, myself or somebody else will make sure we bring the agenda. But by all means, go online and check it out, even print it out, so you can prepare yourself even more, who you're going to call up, get familiar with that. And last, but certainly not least, bring a pencil or pen and a paper so that you can take copious notes during the meeting. So make sure you're fully present. Next slide. So let's talk about that first half of the meeting where you describe your role. I tell people, stick to the script. And no, I'm not talking about Star Wars or Jaws or any movie script. It's much, much smaller than those scripts. My pro tip is to download the generic script that we have at the Yes and Toastmasters website. Valerie, if you can advance the slide. And here's what that would look like. So you would just go on to yesandtoastmasters.org, and you can see that in that left box. And then to the box to the right, you would sign in, and then scroll down to where it is where it's highlighted in yellow here, member downloads. Click on that, and it'll bring you to here. This is a menu of the member downloads. It may be a little bit small to see, but the first one says General Evaluator. Click on that. And Valerie, if you can advance the next slide. This is the first half script in a nutshell. The Toastmaster will call you up for you to describe your role in that first half of the meeting. I call that BTT, before table topics. And this is what you're going to say to a T. Thank you, Mr. or Miss or Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. As the General Evaluator, it is my job to evaluate everything that takes place during the club meeting. The General Evaluator also conducts the evaluation portion of the meeting and is responsible for introducing the evaluation team, the speech evaluators, grammarian, and timer. At the end of the meeting, I will give an evaluation of the meeting as a whole. So that's your first part of your role down. So here's the second half of the meeting, ATT, after table topics. You're going to facilitate. That's the key. You're going to call up one by one the evaluator number one, evaluator number two, the timer, and the grammarian, and they're going to perform their roles. Here's some of Garrett Gray's additional pro tips. Get the names right. We have a big club. We don't always know everybody or how to pronounce their name correctly. So before the meeting, get with them. And even if it's a little awkward, just say, could you tell me how you pronounce your name? I just want to make sure I pronounce it right. Dogs love hearing their names heard, and humans are no different. So if you butcher the name, you kind of drop the ball. So remember, if you're going to facilitate at work, you want to make sure you have that person's name right. Look at this picture here. Here's Zena enthusiastically shaking Kari's hand. And this is, to me, the quintessential Toastmaster or General Evaluator, where you're in command of that stage. You shake hands before and after. So if somebody just gave an evaluation and they're going down and say, thank you, shake their hand, great job. So if you want to give some encouragement, but be enthusiastic as well. And one thing I've learned is do not leave the stage or the lectern unattended. Now, I know sometimes with Zoom, you have to go and we have the screen taking focus, but make sure you don't leave that unattended. And if you're on the flip side, if you're one of those roles, do the evaluators, the timer, or the grammarian, don't just leave. Pause, shake that person's hand, then leave. But you go back, Valerie, just one more tip. I encourage people who are Toastmasters or General Evaluators to sit up front so you can get up quickly. But if you're not, because we have a packed room always, just go to the side, right? And make sure you're off camera, give that person the full stage, and when they're done, return to that stage and take control. Next slide, Valerie. So the second half, after doing all that facilitation, is going to be you going up and giving a general evaluation of the meeting as a whole. I call this the meat because it's the most substance you give as the general evaluator. And MEAT stands for make evaluation appropriate and timely. You have 4 minutes, so don't make it 10 minutes, and make it appropriate. You can talk about many different roles or not every role, right? You can pick and choose, but just say a little bit. And if somebody said it in an evaluation, don't belabor the point. Move on. You only have 4 minutes. Next slide. So let me give you some feedbacks or tips on what type of feedback you can give in your meat sandwich there. Talk about, did we start on time? Did we end on time? Which is somewhat nebulous because you're going to give this before the meeting is totally ended, but you can say we're still going to end on time based on what we have right now. Were the guests welcome? This is so important too. And Valeria is our president. She does such a great job of making everybody feel welcome. And why they're in Toastmasters. This is a huge, huge thing for Toastmasters. And this isn't on the slide, but decorations and goodies. People love goodies. Cassie brought pizza to the last meeting. I'm definitely going to mention that because I want her to bring more pizza back. The theme, did it work? Was it great? Did people were they engaged by it? Did they lean into it and accept it? The Toastmaster, did they bring the energy? Was it a clever theme they thought of? Right. So there's a lot of things. Improv Master, you can choose maybe one game you really loved, or if you thought Mark Avioni once knocked it out of the park as Improv Master, and Ayaz said you were great with all your games, clear instruction. The Table Topic Master, you can mention if it fit the theme or they were just clever in general, anything you want to talk about. Speakers, you don't have to evaluate the speakers. You have evaluators on your evaluation team. However, if you want to say one thing you absolutely loved about their speech, and maybe an area that they could maybe kick up a notch, feel free to do so, but it's not necessary. Or if you just want to say, great job, I totally related to that, keep speaking, whatever. Like Mary Poppins says, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. So be encouraging. Evaluators, again, be encouraging what you liked about their evaluation, but it doesn't even have to be a long dissertation. It can just be, you guys were killer. This is what you want to, this is how you want to evaluate and give them some acknowledgement. And then last, I like to always bring up if we're having fun or having energy, because if we are having fun on the stage. The people in the room are having fun as well. But with that said, once your 4 minutes are up, you're going to call up the table topic master and Toastmasters to present the best table topics ribbon. And then after that, and we take the pictures, you're going to pass the meeting over to the vice president of education for roll sign up for the next meeting. So in summary, as a general evaluator, the first half of the meeting, you'll describe your role. The second half of the meeting, you'll start by facilitating and introducing your evaluation team. And then last, but definitely not least, you will give your own 4-minute evaluation of what went well and what areas can be improved. With that, that's the general evaluation role. I'll hand it back to our president, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Garrett. Awesome advice and awesome presentation on the general evaluator. One of, I think, the most understated roles in Toastmasters, but critical for sure. Next up, I'm going to talk a bit about the grammarian. Daniel Perez was going to cover this, but unfortunately he wasn't able to join us this evening. So we will keep this pretty short and sweet. The grammarian, while I say we'll keep it short and sweet, is actually a really important role in the meeting as well. The grammarian is helping us all become better speakers by improving our grammar and vocabulary. As grammarian, you're going to do a few things to prepare yourself for the meeting and then a few things during the meeting itself. The first is to review the script and make sure you stick to the script. Like Garrett said about the general evaluator, stick to the script when you are introducing the role and what your tasks are going to be for the night. And there's two parts to the grammarian. The first is to introduce the word of the day. And the second is to keep track of all of the ums and ahs and filler words that take place throughout the meeting. And when you do the script, you typically introduce that piece and then move into the word of the day itself. You'll want to keep track of these pieces so that when you report back, you're not trying to be mean, you're trying to help speakers recognize some of the filler words that they use that might be holding them back from becoming a better speaker. We all have some sort of crutch word at some point in our speaking journey that we need to push ourselves through, some people more than others, and this is a friendly environment for us to work on those things. So keep track of those ums and ahs, and then introduce a word of the day. And this is a word that should help participants increase their vocabulary, and it can be kind of fun to connect it back to the theme. For example, if the theme is superheroes, you could choose a word like fearless or impetuous or courageous, and then you listen for use of that word throughout the speeches. So it actually challenges the speakers to incorporate that word seamlessly into their impromptu speeches or their prepared speeches, as well as throughout other parts of the meeting. So monitor and take note of improper grammar and filler words. Ums and ahs are the primary pieces to keep track of, but you can also comment if somebody uses a word that doesn't quite mean what they think it means, or maybe they use a really cool word and you want to point out, wow, that was an awesome word or an awesome phrase, and then count the use of the word of the day and report on it when you are called upon. That's the grammarian in a nutshell. Okay, next I am going to turn things over to Mark, our Sergeant of Arms, to talk about the timer. And I'm actually going to stop sharing so that Mark can share his screen himself and take control.
Valerie, can I ask a question now or at the end?
While he's getting his screen up, you can ask a quick question. If it's going to take too long to answer,
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, the grammarian will evaluate everyone, like the ahas, like, Toastmaster, table topics, everyone, or is it only the speakers, the evaluation?
Great question, and I should have pointed that out. You'll want to do all of the prepared speeches, the evaluators, and the table topics. And if you want to, you can call out other people that are talking throughout the evening, but those are the core ones to pay attention to. So any of the timed speeches, basically, the speakers themselves, the evaluators, and the table topics. Word of the day, everyone. Keep track of anything said in the meeting for that. Cool. I'm going to turn things over to Mark for the timer.
Okay. Thank you, Valerie, for that. Fellow Toastmasters, it's great to see everyone here this evening. I will be running through the timers report and presentation to how to handle the timers role for the Toastmasters meeting. And we'll get moving right along. First, I just wanted to point out how important it is to be on time. Not only in Toastmasters, but in life, people are waiting for you. So it's really important to make sure you're punctual, and being on time is an important skill to learn. And that's what we try to instill here at Toastmasters as well. So it's important that we do time all the different elements of the meeting. With that being said, that is my timers presentation for this evening. I will turn this back over to our president, Valerie.
But no, Mark, I want you to talk for a couple more minutes about the timer. Come on. You have to have a few more minutes prepared, don't you?
Oh, no. Okay. I'm sorry about that. And that is exactly what you don't do at a Toastmasters meeting, because you really got to stay within your time element. And there is a lot more for me to share with everyone. So I do want you to stick around and listen up. Thank you for that reminder, Valerie. Okay, the first thing is it's very important to set the time allotment expectations for the speaker and table topics and the evaluators. One of the skills Toastmasters is that you practice in expressing a thought within a specific time period. And the timer is the one responsible for monitoring the time for each meeting segment and each speaker. So as a timer, you're going to acquire the timing equipment, which is these cards if you're at the meeting. So feel free to go to the Sergeant of Arms, which is me this year. If for some reason I'm not there, Noel has a great handle on this. He'll be more than happy to hand you out the timing cards for the meeting. So make sure you're at the meeting early to be able to get the timing cards. There also is a timing sheet. Be sure to ask the Sergeant of Arms for a timing sheet. I'll be more than happy to hand it to you, and that will give you a snippet of exactly what you need to do at the meeting, and it will have columns you can put in the people's names and record their exact times. Next, you're going to want to verify the times of each speaker, and this is important to do before the meeting. So as soon as you get to the meeting, make sure you grab an agenda and check who's speaking and check the time on the agenda to make sure that you're going to be recording the proper time allotment for each speaker. And then finally, you're going to want to explain the timing rules and demonstrate the signaling device using the timing cards at the meeting during the speaking role. So be sure to do that. And that's going to be the first part of the meeting. So you're going to get up at the first role of the meeting when they call the timing your timing role, and you're going to get up and you're going to explain exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to say that you're going to be timing the three major roles for the evening, which is going to be the speeches and the table topic segment and the evaluators. And those are the cards you see on your screen that you're going to be holding up in the air at the specific time allotments for the evening. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to be doing the three specific elements of the meeting, which is the speeches. Now, there's three different types of speeches I classify these into. You have your icebreaker speech, which is typically 4 to 6 minutes long. So at 4 minutes, of course, you would show the green. At 5 minutes, you would show the yellow. And then at 6 minutes, you will show the red. And you always get a 30-second buffer to wrap up, so keep that in mind as well. Your typical speech, though, is about 5 to 7 minutes. So it'd be 5 green, 6 would be yellow, and then the 7 minutes would be red. And then you also have your custom speeches. And this is what you really want to pay attention to on the agenda. Sometimes speeches are 10 to 12 minutes, for example. So you do need to adjust your timing accordingly based on the timing of each speaker for that evening. The second part of the meeting that you'll be timing is the table topic segment, and all those are 1 to 2 minutes. So 1, you would get the green. At 1.5, you would get the yellow, and then at 2, you would get the red. And again, you always get that 30-second buffer to wrap up your table topic. And then finally, all the evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, and you'll time that accordingly as well. 2 would be the green, 2.5 minutes will be the yellow, and then at 3 minutes will be the red. So with that, I do want to just say your final part is going to be, you want to report the results at the end of the meeting. The general evaluator is going to call you up to report the exact length of each segment. So you're going to get up there and you're just going to list off everyone and their time for the evening so that people are aware of the time that they presented for that night. And really, that's about it for the timers report. And I will turn this over. I'll just throw this right over to Noel, who's going to be handling the table topic master role for this evening. So let's give a round of applause for Noel Ganay. Noel?
Thank you so much. And I am going to share my screen for this.
Let me stop share on my screen. There you go.
Okay, I don't know why this thing's going on this way. There we go. As Marcus said, my portion of this meeting is going to talk about table topics. This is an opportunity for our club to get everybody involved. As you know, we have very limited speaking roles in our club. And one of the things that we decided that, you know, when we started this club between myself, Garrett, and Mike, was we wanted everybody to participate. Now, when we do the improv, we pretty much get everybody to participate. It's a warm-up, so they get used to the meeting and everything. But when it comes to table topics is, I guess, is a smaller version of our improv because it gets an opportunity for everybody to, you know, express an opinion and also practice their extemporaneous speaking for the meeting. So what we have is a table topics master role, which is usually tied into what goes on in the team. Doesn't have to be, but what makes the meeting at Yes and Toastmasters to be very memorable is because of the fact that we go through from everything from the word of the day to the Toastmaster coming up with a theme, is also that the table topics also falls in line with this. Now, your role as table topics masters, you introduce the table topics segment at first, and then you get the chance for everybody, the chance to share a viewpoint of experience. Best way to do this, because as you know, we have, as of today, we have 34 members. Now think about that. 34 members in an hour-and-a-half meeting. If each and every one of them got the chance to speak for 5 minutes, we are definitely going to be kicked out of the library. So we figured, well, what's the best way to do this? Just make sure everybody gets a chance, because, you know, even as a grammarian timers, like when they say they're a little apart, if they expand it out, we're already losing some time to get for everybody else to participate. So when it comes to table topics, we make sure that people who decided that, hey, I want to be a Toastmaster, we are very serious in this club that you say, you paid to be a better speaker. So we will hold you upon that by giving you the chance to speak and also even take some of the roles. So if you don't have one of the prepared speeches, you might as well jump into the table topics, because this is for you to think on your feet. Just as if you've heard from Valerie when she starts off the meeting, where she says that, you know, combine Toastmasters and improv to make you a fearless speaker is to really think on your feet. So when it comes to that role, here are some tips that you can learn about the whole management of table topics. Pick about, I would say, somewhere between 10 to 15 questions that you want to put on table topics. When I mean 10 to 15 questions, I think if you were in the last meeting, you saw the reason why we had to have more than 10 questions, because some people were answering the questions that was 30 seconds. And suddenly, well, okay, we have another 5 minutes to kill. And then the next person answers in 30 seconds. So just be prepared that you might have that many, you might have less than that, depending upon the time management that we have. So prepare yourself by having 10 to 15 questions related to the topic. And make sure that these questions are what we call open-ended questions. Now, I'll give you an example of a pretty just single answer question. Garrett, did you have a great day today? And Garrett's answer is?
No.
Okay. And then there's the silence. Pick some questions that would actually fit on something, gives them an opportunity. I know you can say, hey, did you have a great day? Why not? That kind of deal. But sometimes you can ask questions. This coming meeting on Thursday is the theme of Everybody Dance Now. So thank you so much, Zena, for that. So if I ask the question to Mike, if you were forced to dance, would you dance or would you do something else? And why?
I would dance because I enjoy dancing. And I could keep going, but I don't want to spend too much time talking. I can go forever, but go ahead, back to you, Noel.
Okay. So that's an example where you provide some questions that's not limited to the yes and no, or saying it's like, do I like blue or green? You have to expound why. And especially with themes that we have, you get an opportunity to really get to know somebody. And at the same time, make it like really short so they have a 2-minute way to answer a question. So that's the one thing that you have to do, is making sure you have a question that's thought-provoking or something like that. If you want to practice on some questions that you want to see that are out there for table topics, you can either Google table topics question, or there's a free app that's called Questions in a Box. So you can go in levels of, it's something very, very light kind of questions asking, what type of coffee do you like, or something like that. Or one of the bigger questions about what's the meaning of life, one of those philosophical questions. So those things are an opportunity for you to figure out what kind of questions that you have. Now, in regards to picking people who will answer these questions, at the beginning of the meeting, right after improv, I will give you a list of people that we know that's in the meeting that is not doing an active role in the meeting. So if you already know that Valerie is a Toastmaster, Garrett's the table topics, general evaluator, Mark is the timer, Mike is an evaluator, then that leaves you Iman, Steven, or Zena that could possibly answer those questions. We tend to pick on our members first because, again, as I said, we hold you accountable when you say you joined Toastmasters so you can be a better speaker. Then you paid for it. We will make sure that you get your money's worth. So that's why we always start off with people in our club. And then, when we have the time, we can reach out to the guests. The guests had an opportunity during the improv part. So this is an opportunity really for you to really test your skills. We have some people that are using this as their practice for interviews. Now, last thing I can talk about this thing about the table topics master role is this is an active listening skill. So not only do you respond to whatever they say as their answer, there's a couple things that you're doing. You're writing down what their answer is, because later on we will be voting on it. The second part of that is, make a quick feedback to it, saying, oh yeah, but it's like, I never thought of that when it comes to, being embarrassed or something like that. It's a good opportunity, because it also turns out that this is a project on Pathways. It's called active listening, that, you do the table topics and then see if you were paying attention to what they were saying, not just giving them the question. So you can come up with very, unique ways how to answer these questions or how you present it. I've seen people where the topic was about time, and so what they did was they pulled out pennies, and I know, actual pennies. I've never seen one in the last 10 years. But, you look at it as like, the date is 1975. Were you born even that day? It's like, well, what was memorable about 1975? Something like that. You can put your questions in a numerical order, and then you can ask them exactly, are they doing question number 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is. Give that person an opportunity to about 5 seconds to come up with an answer on that. Now, the reason why we want you to write down what they said is because they are voting on best table topics. And then at the end of the meeting, or right after the general evaluation, they're going to call out the table topics master, and then they will present exactly, who won that. So your job, if you're in person, is to count out those little slips. I will be helping out. Mark has helped out on that too, where we collect the slips and then you count it out. If there are some people that's online, Mike or myself or Mark, whoever's the Zoom master, we will tell you the tally that's coming from that end, because we'll tell them, it's like, send your votes to Mike Scampini, or the one that says Zoom master or something like that. If you're online, it's backwards. That means we will tell you from what we were counting from in person to tell you online. And then at the same time, you can tell people that are online to send their votes to you. So both ways you can work upon it. If you look at that nice, wonderful picture that's showing the Toastmaster griddle, we've had some times where we find some item that we think it's great to give, like the last meeting, the mug that I found that said blah, blah, blah. I thought it was great because it's table topics and it's about talking way too much. So that's a perfect one. So those are the things that you can do. Prepare yourself on writing out your questions. Also making sure that they're open-ended questions. Pick on the members first, so make sure that they get an opportunity. The ones that are not on an active role, I will give you that list right at the start of the meeting so you have an idea who they are. And then also you get to count the votes, whether online or in person, and that's what we have. I am going to turn this over to the next person, which is going to be Mr. Mike Scampini.
All right, thank you, Noel. Bring up my screen here. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Should be a slide. You see it? Good. Excellent. All right. Welcome. Okay, so we're going to go over the evaluator role. So this is a very important role. Actually, my favorite role in Toastmasters since I joined has been the one I've gravitated to the most, has really helped me actually become a better speaker overall. The gist of the evaluator role, it's a 2 to 3 minute speech for a prepared speaker. We know in Toastmasters, we have the prepared speaker roles, and towards the end of the meeting, you'll notice that they get evaluated. So your job is to go up there and give a 2 to 3 minute evaluation of the speaker. But I think there's a little bit more to it. And what I can do here today in my portion here is help you prepare for that and give you a playbook that you can use going forward to help you become a better evaluator. So what we're going to talk about, 3 pieces. First, the evaluation system. We'll talk about giving feedback, and then we will also talk about practice and how you can use this evaluation system I'm going to share with you to practice and become a better speaker. The evaluation system was introduced to me by my mentor, who's here, Garrett Gray. When I joined Toastmasters, we met and became good friends, and he really helped me become a better speaker. For me, I started out very shy and not really able to speak in public, and he really helped me hone my skills. And we really worked on this evaluation system to help each other become better and help others become better, in turn, in benefiting ourselves. The system I'm going to share with you has been used by many champion speakers. Garrett has won the evaluation contest for the district twice in 2 different districts. I've also won it in 2 different districts. I believe Vineet uses our system, similar to our system. He's won an evaluation championship. All that to say, this system works. With that, though, you don't need to compete. You don't need to become a champion of a contest. This is just something that you can use to really help you become a better speaker, but also to help others become better, because really that's the goal. This is the system. This is actually, I didn't quite create this process, but I did create this worksheet to practice this process. When I was introduced to this, it was more so just kind of this portion, but I added on to this to kind of help guide you through doing an evaluation. So when you're evaluating someone, what you want to do is tell them what they did well, give them constructive feedback on how they can improve next time. And then also what we like to say is also tell them what you really liked. Like Garrett said, the spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. So here's kind of the medicine, and then the sugar at the end makes it go down. What you can use this sheet for is to kind of guide you in what to look for when you are evaluating someone. So on the right side here, you have some different areas that you can look for. Avoiding jargon, conversational, credibility, eye contact, gestures, humor. And either people are going to use these things well, or maybe they could improve on these things. So if they weren't very funny, you could make suggestions of how they can add humor to their speech. Or if they did really good at telling a story, you can mark that as a strength, and that's an easy one to display to them when you give their evaluation. So this worksheet here, you can use this to fill this out while they're speaking, and you can use this when you present. And then at the end, you can hand it to them and give them some good feedback. So we really like this form, and I'll provide this form for you. I'll email it out after the session today, and then you can print 100 of these, and I'll show you how you can use them in just a bit here. Okay, so that's the evaluation system, and you will get better at that by using it. And again, I will provide that at the end. Next, we'll talk about giving feedback. So now that you have the system, the track that you can run on, let's talk about how you can give that feedback. So giving feedback is important in how you do it. I personally have been evaluated by some in other clubs. Actually, at a club that I went to a long time ago that I didn't really know anybody. I was just there to visit. When the person evaluated me, they gave like a speech about themselves and really didn't mention my speech at all or give me any good feedback, which that was their style and that's fine. But really, this is about giving the person the feedback that they need to become better next time. So what you can do to start with is to prepare is I like to go to the speaker if you can before the meeting and talk to them and say, hey, what is something that you want me to look for in your speech? And they'll say, you know, I've really been working on vocal variety. I want to use vocal variety more to kind of enhance my message. Great. And that's something perfect when you go to that evaluation system that you know you can watch for. Either it's going to be a strength or it's going to be a growth opportunity, or sometimes maybe even both. That's something that you can watch for. Preparing, helping you gauge what they want to see will be very helpful. Now, while they're speaking, make sure to listen. You want to actively listen. And really, that's where evaluating helps me. It helps me pay attention more in the meeting because I'm pretty much constantly evaluating most speakers, even though I'm not an evaluator. So it can really help you be a little more present in the meeting. You can improve your listening skills in the process. So it's really good. So the rule of 3, this just talks to 3 strengths, 3 growth opportunities, keeps it simple for you, gives you a nice, easy track to run on when you are doing your evaluations. And then on the growth opportunities, this is probably the most important part. You want to tell them what they did and why it's important, and then also how they can improve next time. So letting them know why it's important is important because then they know why they should improve on it next time, and give them specific ways that they can improve. Be specific, very important. So when you're looking at this and you're filling this out, the things you want to put in here are specific examples of why it's important, and then also how they can improve next time, or how they displayed this strength when they were giving their speech. The strengths are important to go first. And some people will do this kind of out of order. I really like going with the strengths first, because if you do these first, if you start here, you lift them up. So when you come down to the growth opportunities, they can kind of take the blows a little bit. They can take the criticism a little bit, makes it a little easier. And then you end with the good thing that you like the most. So that's why I like to go in this order. I think it works really well. It is a proven system that will give you the ability to do a strong evaluation. Another piece that I'll share with you is this, and I'm going to flip to my other monitor here. Oops. So I can zoom in. So this is a cheat sheet that you can use to start off with. This is something I built when I was competing and practicing evaluations. So this will give you those different areas that you can look for. This will tell you why they're important, and then this will tell you how the person can do it. So you actually don't need to come up with this stuff on your own. For example, humor. Why is humor important? It engages the audience. You can say that right in the beginning. You know, you can work, your humor is great. Why is that important? Because it engages the audience. Or if it's an improvement area, you can say, well, here's some things that you can do. You can consider jokes, puns, callbacks, whatever. Tweak this, make it your own. You don't have to use those exact words, but this will give you something that you can start with and you can build from as you start to do your evaluations. So I highly recommend this, and I will share this as well. So don't worry about taking all these notes down. Okay, so that is how you can give feedback. And then finally, practice. Now, I know what you're thinking. How would I practice? How would I do that? We have 2 meetings a month. I probably won't be the evaluator in every single meeting. So how can I really have time to get better at this? Well, there are a lot of ways. I would print out several of these, bring these with you, and you can evaluate every single speech that happens. You can evaluate every single table topic speech, and you can even get really nerdy like I did, and you can evaluate YouTube videos. That's how I prepared for my contest. I Googled Toastmaster speeches. I got to YouTube, and I would watch the different speeches, and I would actually do the written evaluation. And if you want to go even further, you can even do the vocal evaluation by yourself at your home. So that'll give you a way to practice this and get better at it. Also, when you're watching these speeches, you can get some really good ways of skills from these top speakers that you're watching. So one thing that I actually did is I would watch TED Talks, because TED Talks are pretty cool because you can learn so much from them, find your favorite ones, but then you can also evaluate those speakers and it will help you stay so much more engaged. That practice is key. That practice of doing that over and over and over again is what's going to help you become better. So that is how you can practice. So, and also Garrett has a really good tip as well I want to share. When I started, he said, do you watch TV? Do you watch commercials? And unfortunately, yes, we see commercials. They're not always fun, but you can evaluate those commercials. So practice just always keeping your evaluation knife a little bit sharper and learn to say, okay, what's good about this? What's not so good about this? Or TV shows or whatever you want to do. So to recap, we went over the evaluation system, which I will share. We talked about giving feedback, and then we talked about how you can practice. So use these skills, and I promise you with practice, and the way to get better at this is to do it over and over again, you will become a strong evaluator, especially if you stick around our club, because as you probably noticed, we have a lot of them. All right, I will pass back to Valerie for the Q&A portion. Oops.
Awesome, thank you. All right, and you know what? I think I'm actually going to stop sharing so we can see everybody and see what questions you folks have. Yes, hi. Hi, Alan. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Two
Hey, Alan.
questions. I'm a speech evaluator for surgery, so I thought I would mention this. I struggle sometimes with being a speech evaluator. I think I've had the chance to do it 2 times at your club. I have lots of experience doing it in another club and then the one I used to be involved in, but that was online. So at the end of the meeting, when you have that form, I think the last time I didn't give it to whoever was giving a speech. It's important to go up to that person and give that form to that person, right? Okay. Number 2, when they are speaking, I mean, when you're given an evaluation, should you give them a specific example of a time in their speech when they said something or did something? Don't just say it was a good speech. Is it important to say, this was really good, but there's something and an actual thing they said? Or is it better just to say, don't go specific, but it is important to give it a specific example? Does that make
Alan,
sense?
that's a great question. And I'll let Mike chime in since he tackled the topic, but I would say yes, because as a speaker, it really helps to get a specific example so that when I go through my speech again, I can refine that area and maybe not pay attention to some of the parts that went really well. But Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, be specific in your feedback. I like to focus first and foremost on delivery of the speech, not so much always the exact content that they share. You can definitely point to content for sure. But let's say it's something maybe that you don't agree with or don't believe in. I try to keep that out of it and try not to put that type of opinion in. It's more so about how they deliver the speech, how they deliver the message. Yeah. But be specific.
One more quick question.
Please. Yeah.
I've never had the chance to be a Toastmaster at your meeting. Hopefully I will at some point, but I have had experience doing it online once or twice at the other club I'm involved in. It's an important number one at Clash Royale Club to get there ahead of time. Or is it okay just to show up at the normal time, like me and Steve? Do you need to get there ahead of time, like 10 minutes ahead of time? Or
I'm glad you asked, and I probably should have included that in the overview. I would say if you can get there early, it's best to at least 5 minutes, if not, as early as you can. We tend to get there about 20 minutes, a half hour before the meeting to set up. So as soon as I know it's hard with work and stuff sometimes for people to get there quickly, but because that'll give you a chance to collect yourself, to ask any questions like name pronunciations and that kind of thing before the meeting. Great question.
Number 3, you mentioned when you're Toastmaster, do we need to actually send you some kind of a bio? Like if I do it for the first time, do we need to send you a bio like when you're giving a speech?
Yes. Yep. You'll want to very similarly introduce yourself as the Toastmaster, maybe say a little bit about yourself, about your background. A little different than a speech because you're not talking about what the speech is, but a few words for the president to introduce you.
That's all I want to know.
Awesome. Great questions. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I know we started a few minutes late. We were 1 minute over. So if anybody needs to drop off, that's okay. But Aman, did you have any other questions for us tonight?
Not really. Everything was really great nuggets, a lot of information, at least, to know where, like, a sense of direction, especially when it comes like to evaluation, Grammarian. I really liked Mike's evaluation tips, like this is something, it was literally vague to me. It's very scary to put myself in that role and not be able to serve the speakers in the best way. So by that, it will be able, like, having the foundation, starting from there. So I really like it. And now I've been in the club for the last 2 or 3 months, but now, like, having this meeting, it gave me a lot of information, how everything goes and what to expect and what not to expect. And even next time when I will attend, I will be able to notice these details, with respect to each role. And it's amazing how each role is a great opportunity for us to learn and practice certain skills that it's not only about public speaking, it's more than that, and it's great. I love it. So thank you all for your time, for your efforts, for all the information that you brought today. It's great.
Well, thank you. And man, every time you give any speech, even just that, I'm so excited to hear your opinions and what you think of things. So thank you so much for those kind words. We had a great time doing this. I know it's hard to give us an extra hour of your time in a week that you're already having a meeting with us, but we appreciate you guys being here. Alan sent Steve our best. Looks like he must have walked away.
You're stuck out to go to the bathroom.
All good. Hey, I'm going to wrap everything up, but I'm going to leave on one note. We talked about a lot of best practices, a lot of things that you can do in these roles. But something to keep in mind is we are all learning together. So you don't have to get it all perfect the first time. Take the role, enjoy it, learn from it, reflect on it later. But if things don't go perfectly according to plan, that's okay, because Toastmasters is a learning environment. So I hope that you'll consider signing up for a role that you haven't had before.
Okay.
What was that, Alan?
We used to be in a club that always met online. So we know what it's like to take an hour online. And
of course.
Anyways, whatever. Yeah, very good.
Valerie, one last question regarding the recording and the presentation. Will you be able to maybe put it on the website or maybe send it to us? It's a great reference to keep looking at it.
Yeah,
yes, I'll put it on YouTube. Yeah, I'll be putting it on YouTube. I'll put it on our website. I'll send it out to everybody. So along with the handouts too, I'll email everybody those that I have and see if anybody else has any. Maybe we can email the slides even too, if that's okay, Valerie.
Yeah. Let's work on getting a packet together. Give us a few days, but we'll get that out to everybody.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again, everybody, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.